Hi everyone, I'm Jess Goat.
And I'm Pengu.
And you guys are watching
Beyond the Siege.
That's right, we have a podcast now.
We'll be talking everything esports.
And also interviews.
And game updates.
Plus tournaments, teams, players, devs, etc.
So everything Rainbow Six?
Damn straight.
And when do we begin?
How about now? Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Siege. My name is Jess Goat. I'm joined yet again by Pengu, and this is 2025, and we bring you episode, I believe, number 6. Nick always has to, confirm that for me because I can barely count past 5, guys. So we're lucky to even be at episode number 6. But nevertheless, we've heard all of your suggestions throughout 2024 of who we should bring on the show, especially for our first episode of 2025. And Nick, before we jump into sort of introducing who this guest is and shouting out the person who suggested it, how was your new year? How has 2025 been? We're bringing the podcast back for another season. Talk to us quickly about what it's been like for you.
I want to say it's been pretty chill so far. Obviously, for us right now, it's like, 23rd of January as we're recording this video. We're about to head out to like Boston. We got boot camp with PSG. So right now, a lot of things are going on. But until this moment, I've just been chilling and doing as little as possible.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, I've been traveling my butt off, hence all of the different backgrounds in every podcast episode. But don't worry, now hopefully I have a stable background like Nick seems to have all the time on his beautiful camera. So hopefully, but shout out to Lauma who suggested that we bring this particular guest onto the podcast. Drum roll, please. It is... boom! The man himself, Milosh the medic.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
It's our pleasure. I like Milosh the medic because it's like, the OG, the real name, so to speak. But I also like the Rainbow Six Siege historian because to me, Milosh, you're a person who's been around for as long as I have, right? The longest of anybody, basically. And you've been such a huge part of many different stages of the game, whether it's community casting, being a host, being a caster in pro play, creating your own content, for example. You've really been around the block when it comes to Siege.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. This game has changed my life. I met my now wife because of this game. I met wonderful friends that were at our wedding and went all around the world with over this past almost decade now. Actually, by the end of 2025, it would have been 10 years of Siege for me. So I'm pretty excited about it for a million and one reasons, but. Yeah, being old is its own thing. Also, I still have Nick's jersey. I think I have it somewhere.
Oh, I knew you were gonna bring that up.
No.
Yeah, it's still unwashed. Actually,
God, don't say that.
Yeah, it's the Penta jersey from Pengu winning his first ever pro league. He sweated in it. I mean, to be honest, you didn't sweat much during that game against Nesk there.
No, it wasn't too bad.
Back in pro league, it was destruction. It was like 10-1 where you won it at the end. So, I remember it because for me, it's a very heartwarming moment. It ties me to this space, whether I like it or not, because I remember the moment when it happened in my first ever event, meeting everybody, and Nick just takes it off and gives me his jersey and says, welcome to the family. And that for me, it just...
What?
I cannot get it out of my mind. It's a memory that will always stay with me.
Wow.
And for me, that's how it all started with having, I guess, Canadian not qualify to an event and being on the desk with them, casting Flipside Tactics, losing to G-Bots, and then being there to have the jersey. That was the first and last time that a Spanish team did something real big internationally.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Old times. Siege historian, you say. We've lived through all of it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I need to backtrack slightly because that's a great introduction, but I think the viewers want to know how you, especially when Siege wasn't popping, let's say, right? It's the beginning, it's the birth. You're coming in, essentially creating the foundation. How did you get into it? Let's put this in two ways because people want to know how you got into it, but also please help the little up and comers as to how you do get into it as well, especially in these days.
Well, I got into it when I still have screenshots and even my own old phone camera photo of playing the beta, much like a lot of people played it. Some people have even started earlier than that in the alpha phase. I could not get my hands on it back then. I thought it was fun, but back then there were clear issues. There were things that were undercooked. Performance was not great. I was also a poor university student, so there's only so much that you could kind of do with the amount of tech that you have. But I thought it was great. A lot of my friends came, and including myself, came from the Battlefield scene. So because I had spent so much time with Europeans, but also mostly Brazilians who had moved to Siege in those early days, even from beta times, I'm like, you know what? At some point, I want to try this out. I want to see what's going on. And over like late 2015 in its release and through 2016, I'm saying like, okay, what's going on with the game? Is this really somewhere where I can see myself enjoying it? Because I don't want to do anything I don't enjoy. I'm already miserable in university, so you kind of want to get the best out of a video game as possible. There's a lot of pressure, with studies and all. So when you sit down and you do something with video games, you want it to be something that's entertaining and fun and really gets your mind off of things. And at some point I hit that, and I felt it at Paris Games Week. That was in 2016. I was there. It was the French national finals, and back then, of course, you had Xbox and PC. So I was watching it from the booth that I was working from. And every time I had a break, I would just continue watching more of the games. I'm like, this is just it's gotten really, really, really good. I really want to see what's going on with it. Like, can I get into it? Yeah. And I talked to people in Brazil, Medigeni and Dritaia, the casters in Brazil. They immediately got me into it. Gabriel Cassel, winner, who now is like high up in the Ubisoft Brazil chain, who like runs all of their stuff in Brazil. Back then was just an admin at ESL.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's how
it started. I known him from Battlefield, and then we got together into Rainbow Six, and then there we are, just meeting up at events now, because this is our job, this is our life. And so that's how I got into it. I casted it. My first caster is still online. Let's just say like solo casting whilst observing and having a chat of 1,000 Brazilians that are going wild also. Wow. It's not easy. I know back then not a lot of people could believe that some rando came out of nowhere streaming Siege, and I understand it. I would also have my reservations and questions that I would want to ask about it, but it was a lot of fun, and I got into it, and I ended up being asked to. You didn't have co-streaming back then; it wasn't really a thing. But I did like the B stream broadcast for the first Invitational. So all of the qualifiers went through me at home for free, and Nick was playing with that old Penta roster that broke down and then reformed before SI. Where you lost to ESG? No, ESG.
ESG. So we went lower bracket against ESG upper bracket, and they had a one map advantage in a best of three. So we played a one map and we lost. Disaster.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. You didn't have enough strat books. You should have went through 17 more pages of strats for every move that you make. That's kind of it. Like, my relationship to Invitational goes back to the very first one, and to Siege also. For those that want to get into it, I say it like with anything that you do, and I started with it. If you're not having fun, don't do it. Yeah. Straight up. There will be times that things will get tough, and that's okay if you can handle it. But the only way for you to be able to handle it is if you like what you do. If you don't like it, or you go into it thinking, I'm going to make money doing this, you are not. You are deceiving yourself. You go in because you like it. I started casting and doing this in 2012, and I did not see a dime until the end of 2014. Now, that was prehistoric esports. Right. So back then there wasn't like anything that even paid realistically. But get into it because you like it. Don't get into it because you think you're gonna make money. Same goes for like even streaming or whatever. You're doing it because you're having fun, because you're enjoying it. Because for a while it's gonna be a money sink if it ever changes to anything else. You're just at least you're having fun.
Yeah.
Agreed.
No, that's very true. It's a passion that can turn into more, a hobby that can turn into more. And it was the same for me as a player, right? I played for 2 years before I made my first dollar, basically. And then it can go fast out of from there, but the starting point definitely is a passion project.
I'm transitioning us like a professional producer that I am to another scene just to really dig deep about those who don't know Milosh for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe you don't watch Pro League, but you found our podcast and you're learning all about it. Milosh really is the father of Siege. So we're not just saying it to hype him up. We don't speak out of our butts here on this podcast. He really is the dad of Siege. He's been there from the very beginning. If you do want to go check out more, we all use Liquipedia. I try and show that as much as possible. And you can go click on broadcast from any tournament. This is not all he's done. No, you do this if you really want to know the father, and then scroll, and then just scroll forever. Yeah. We could be here forever if you want. We could just keep going.
That's ridiculous.
We're still going. These are years and years and years worth of Milosh's life that he's devoted to this game. So if you want to see a very, very impressive resume, and that's not everything, of course, this is just what Liquipedia has regarding Siege.
It's missing the Go Force.
It's missing the Go Force.
Oh my God.
Which is now called, what is that called in modern day? Siege Cup.
Face it, even
No,
Siege Cup,
Yeah, you got Siege Cup, but like now it's turning into in-game tournaments. So that's cool. That's good. We've been waiting for that for since its announcement at SI 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad. I know that like the pandemic, and especially for those first 2 years, it really screwed up a lot of development for a lot of games, not just Siege. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're actually having this more accessible way of playing competitive Siege, because like for teams that are up and coming, feel free to correct me, Nick, because I'm not a pro player. I never will be. But like teams that make it deep into like qualifications for an event or whatever, even if they're just online, those games that you will have against pro teams or whatever, there will be the best scrims you'll ever have. You don't expect yourself to win, but you're there to test your mettle. And you kind of have to take it that way, which it's the same. It's going to be the same in those cups.
Something very beautiful about, you think you're pretty good at the game, because let's say you're a diamond player or a plat emerald player, whatever. You're like, you know what, we got this. We're pretty good. We're like a tier 4 team. We scrim maybe whatever. You play like a tier 1, like actual professional team, and you realize how big of a gap there still is from your position to theirs. And until you have that experience, or you play something like a Siege Cup, or you play a mixed stack of pros, you won't really fully comprehend just how big of a difference that can be.
Yeah, I won one Go 4 back when I was a comp player, and I was a bad comp player. I was an IGL. I was a support player because I had the big brains but not the big aim. The opposite of Ash mains, I suppose, who are all aim, no brain. I had the opposite of that, and I won once, and that was my only. And shout out Shate, who put me on his Go 4 team one time. We came second. Right? Missed out on another little cup, but I do have a little cup on my gun. No one believes me. I don't blame you. I've seen my gameplay as well. I know it. I love those Siege Cups. They're really good.
Yeah, I did win one Go 4, but that was in Battlefield. So I'll just...
Okay.
Yeah, and I did win like an internal tournament. There was this... it happened like through Battlefield 1. There was a competitive mode that had come out, or like developers were working on, and it was out for a small amount of time, but I was sent in with like a lot of pro players, people that actually like lived off of playing Battlefield 4, especially 3 and 4. And they played in like official tournaments. They had won tournaments and everything. And I was set in to play in this internal tournament, and my team won, and I was IGLing and just doing all that. And I'm like, this is cool. This is really fun, but my body could not handle the stress of it for so long. I genuinely like, and this is not just for players. I know also that coaches stress more about what's happening in the game than the players do. And you've both experienced that. And I'm very sorry for it, because like heart medication at some point has to just be for free.
Yeah, they should just start dishing it out to the esports, folk, and They got to have low blood pressure, because if I had high blood pressure, Yogo would not be sitting here right now doing this podcast with you all. But I want to throw back, actually, because you guys have thrown out a lot of things I hadn't heard before. And I might not be the dad or mom of Siege, but I've been around for quite a few years. So the fact that I'm still learning things on this podcast is really, really cool. But I want to know your favorite memory, because people ask me mine all the time. And I have like one or two that I always speak about. But I feel like for you, Milosh, there's probably one or two I've heard from you during our time working together that I love. I'm curious to see what you bring up for everyone. What is your top memory?
I have a few, and they have changed like over time. Like more have been added because there have been so many cool moments. Obviously, there's the more intimate ones that I've had, you know, like with, for example, with Nick, with Fabian, with Intero, with Kicks. Like these are things that we've all experienced, like from our own point of view.
Yeah.
But from like a game experience point of like an event kind of thing, being there at SI 2018 was insane. You can still see me jumping for joy in the background in the after movie. They have like a shot of Intero and Kicks, and then in the back somebody's like jumping up, like going up in the air. Yeah, that's me. Because I remember in that moment I was so happy, and then Parker turns to me and he's like looking at me like this thing is gonna fall if you keep jumping like this, please. Because we were suspended like a bit higher up, and he's like focused on it, and I'm jumping around because, you know, we had more flexibility in the time we can do things in a different way. But I was so happy. I was overjoyed. That was a moment that really cemented this game in my mind, that we can make this bigger and better, and all we need is just more time and resources. And that's what happened. SI 20 was incredibly cool. I mean, you were there, Jess. You were right next to me. It was another sort of experience. But I felt like SI 24 in Brazil was, for me, a linchpin of saying, are we still here or not? What's going on?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're in the middle of it, this is a real. I'm thinking we're back.
Yeah.
This is very much it. Like you're seeing all of this. Everybody's got tears in their eyes. It was incredible. I had never been on that side of the stage. Also, even for the like 5 minutes that I was on there, I couldn't believe what was going on. That I could see so many people around me that are experiencing it, and it made me think, what do players feel when they're on here? Because this is very daunting. Yeah. Usually I'm like on a different part of the stage, not in the straight middle of it for the award ceremony then. And it was another sort of experience. That's a memory that really sticks in my mind. That final also, like, I'm sorry, Nick. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, like, Penta EG, incredible game, right? Yeah. We can talk about it all day, every day. Like a required viewing for any fan of the game if you're getting into the esport. However, that phase versus W7M final,
incredible.
At SI, there's no game like it. You cannot tell me. You cannot script it any better. The first time ever a Brazilian esports team wins in Brazil, and there's two of them in the final.
Yeah.
There's two of them in the final.
And then there's twin story.
And they're not on the same team. No, they're on the opposite team.
It's insane.
And they make it to map 5. They're in overtime. What? Are you kidding me? And it turns into a 1v1. Are you kidding me?
This photo. I cried. I definitely cried. I looked at that when he grabbed his brother's hand and walked around the stage after he lost and like said, he's still a champion. Look at him. He's still a champion. That was it. It was over for me. Like I was, keeping rock still for that. And then he just broke me. And this hug.
Brazilian fans, they're on another level. Brazilian players are on another level. Brazilian fans are incredible. They were so nice. Everybody was screaming. Everybody was loving every bit of it. The arena was clearly split in two. People had like jerseys that were on the floor that, they kind of laid out. They had shrines in the arena. Like it was insane. I had never seen anything like it. And this is the experience that like people should go and experience what these events are like, because of course you can't recreate the thing that happened before, right? You might not be able to get that same exact experience, but trust me, if you've never been to an esports event, and especially not a Siege event, you have not really experienced what it's like to be part of all this community. And SI is on another level. Like I've been to, so have the both of you been to many different esports that I barely watch, I barely know anything about, because like, well, you know what, it's happening somewhere nearby, or I know some people that might be there and I just want to see what it's like. Yeah. And you go and you're like, this is cool. This is something else. People engage with the game and with the esport differently. Yeah. But of course, when you know the space, like with Siege, it's on another level. Like SI is this big celebration of not just the esport. The esport is like one part of it. It's a reason to have the event, if you ask me. The bigger parts of it is the community aspect, like the cosplayers that are there, all the streamers and personalities that will come in, the developers that are there, everybody that is there is what makes it really cool. And it's like an excuse to put on such an event where you're like, you know what, we can combine all of that into one big event. And for those that don't know, if it weren't for Dota having the international, Siege might have never had the invitational as we know it today.
Okay, inspiration.
The original fans, the original devs that made Rainbow Six were huge Dota fans, still are. They would regularly fly out to the international that usually would be happening in Seattle back then?
Yeah, Seattle. Yeah,
I think somewhere there in the US. I don't know if they had something in Canada at some point. Or
Vancouver had some events as well.
Yeah, but I think back then they would only go to Seattle, so they would fly out as a group and I watch it, and they're like, imagine if we had something like this for our game. and then they started thinking, like, this is sick. We should absolutely have that. And SI-17, just watching it from home back then, it is like this tiny little theater. We don't do that anymore. We need arenas.
Yeah,
we need arenas to fit the amount of people that are going, no matter where we go. So yeah, it's something else. It's you can't actually like put it into words what that experience really is like, especially when you've seen it progress over the years.
Yeah, we've grown. It's same for player numbers. I just checked the numbers. Like February 2018 was a big month for Siege, and then obviously March, massive increase of player base on Steam that we can see publicly. Probably like viewership on Twitch, YouTube, etc. Everybody benefited from that massive, like the articles that were happening, everybody talking about it. Same in 2024 when we had the big storylines, everyone's talking about it, and the game grows because of it as well. There's always been a direct correlation between big Siege Pro League events and then player base spikes. Because like we're in the season, the year reveal, the season reveal, content, etc. So we've always spent these events kind of celebrating the game at a bigger level all the way throughout.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, especially SI more than majors.
Yeah.
Because it was designed to do it. It mixes all of these bits of the community together, right? From the people who like the esport, from people who are there for the new stuff that comes out. They want to see how it's going, and maybe interested in how some players or content creators will be able to use that new content in the game, to people that are there because they're like, oh, I saw there's these big name orgs or big name players or whatever, and I really want to watch what the arena is going to look like, or what they're going to do for for introducing even the event or introducing the grand final. It's just different ways of pulling people into the show, and I think it's worked immensely well over the years. Our past SI broke every freaking record,
every metric,
everything. Like
it did.
Every part of it was incredible. People loved it. The more the grand final even continued as it was, the more people wanted to know about it and get into it. So that's great. I'm loving it. The more people love the game, the more people eventually will see, hey, the esport's pretty cool. And I want to see what's going on. You, of course, might not be able to catch everything. It's not your full-time job. And even people whose full-time job it is to keep up with the game cannot keep up with it because there are so many things that are happening. You just cannot.
Too many regions, too many time zones, too many games.
Exactly. But that's why you have people from different regions that are put in their input. They have their experience. They either casted those games or been part of that scene for so long that they can talk about it. And thinking that anybody who is part of the show can be an expert at everything at the same time is just crazy. It cannot happen. The only reason why I can remember all of those things or like talk to you about old stuff is because I was there when they were all happening. But there's a lot of stuff that I don't really remember as much. I have to tie them to another core memory. Like I remember watching the SI 2018 qualifiers for APAC when they were doing them in person in Australia. And I was watching that on my phone, eating pizza with Fabian in my old like university studio back in Belgium. And we just sat back there and thinking, we have to wake up at 5 a.m. But because both of us have like flights to catch. And my apartment was completely empty because I'd already like packed all my stuff and I'm like leaving the next day. But we said, no, we're getting pizza and we are watching the qualifiers. We're going to see what it's about. And this is what kind of is instilled in my brain, those memories that I got to build with the game through all of the people that were there in it. And there's plenty between the three of us also over those years.
I mean, it's interesting for me because you managed to try and take, and you've been in esports since 2012, but the game's been out since 2015, right? So let's say the last 7, how many years are we? 10? Sorry, 10 years?
We're coming up.
10 in December.
Okay, so let's say the past 9 years of Siege esports, you attempted to do something that I don't think anyone has ever done in Siege, and you've jammed 9 years, crunched it down into 2.5 hours, is my understanding, and you've attempted to do and not attempted, you've actually achieved it. You've done it. 2.5 hours long of a YouTube video called The Entire History of Rainbow Six Esports in 150 minutes. Guys, please, there will be a link below. Do click on it, save it, watch it, pin it. I don't care. Share it with your grandmother. This is going to be the clearest, most understandable, and most comprehensible way to digest Siege in the past 9 years. That has been 9-10 years, because I suppose you got to also incorporate the beta that you spoke about, people playing in. Milosh has attempted to give you that all for free. Now, please do support his Patreon. I think you're still running the Patreon. Please do support it if you can, because this is not an easy thing to put together. But wow, what a video.
Yeah, it's one I'm very proud of. I kind of needed to do it because I felt because of the pandemic and the stress that was happening, especially like through it and the tail end of it. You understand and you lived the life of paperwork and travel and immigration and everything in that time, Jess. We talked about it endlessly in person and in text and online in that time. But like that experience really weighed heavily on me. And so by like end of 2022 and like early to mid 2023, I just don't know. I don't know what happened, but I just stopped really caring the way that I did. I've now looking back at it, I know that it was a burnout.
Yep.
Yeah. It was caused by multiple different things. But it like clearly impacted me, and I had time to reflect. And I thought, you know what? If I manage to pull this project off, it means I'm like, 1, recovered, and 2, I still love this game the way that I used to. Yeah. And I managed to. It took a long time. It took 60 plus pages of writing.
Wow.
From like the end of November till end of January. Writing, rewriting, rewriting, and then editing. Like this all came out of my own pocket. I would really want to thank our editors for doing this, because at some point this 2.5 hours were edited by myself and three other people. If not, we had to bring in like a 4th person in the last 3 days just to get it done. And they're all from the Siege community one way or another that helped make it happen. and they all put in their marks. The different chapters that they worked on have their own style built into them, and people who know their style definitely would see the difference. There are chapters that are longer than others, but that's because that's how Siege was. Some of those chapters were longer than others, dividing it into different topics that are relevant, where you have like a storyline that you can follow. All of these things were so tough, but so rewarding to make and put together. I bought equipment to make it happen. I didn't see a dime actually out of this video. I'll be very honest with you. It was a personal project. I put in my own time and money into it because I thought, if no one's going to make this video because it didn't exist
there was nothing
online,
like this.
No.
Yeah, if this does not exist, then I might as well do it, because this idea came up a month after we had finished shooting the video for the SI MVP award that Nick has also gotten in the past. And for me, it's you know what? If the developers are putting their trust in me as their MVP of the year, I want to put my trust in the game, and I would give back to it by making this. The amount of footage that I had to dig up that you cannot find.
Relics.
Even this bit, one of the people in front of you in that screen was at my wedding.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not even kidding. This is how old this is from this era.
Wow.
This was back when Germans were good at the game. So I had to throw them under the bus for a bit. But this is when things really were happening then, in 2015. And it was crazy that we actually put this all together. For me, I wanted to get this out before SI. It came out literally the day of. And this is after learning a lot about video editing, because I wasn't just recording stuff and writing, but also learning to do my own editing, either audio or cutting or really cleaning up videos and green screen and all that. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but the end product I am so happy with, because I was finally going to SI24 last year, and literally I had just landed in Brazil. I got to my hotel and I get into the elevator to go to my room. I think it was Pasha.
Okay.
That was in the elevator with me, and he looked at me and he's like, I watched the video. But I watched it and I could not stop, even though I had to wake up early for the games, because it was so good. And then I had the same thing from Joystick, and then more and more and more players that were talking to me about it. And I can't believe that, everybody got to watch it, or so many people really did and enjoyed it, but also that now it had garnered a lot of traction.
Well, 500,000 views, I think now, right?
Yeah, it's
663.
Yeah, that's a lot.
For a long form video, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Because people were telling me back then, and I do agree, that includes my parents, but also video editors, professional video editors, you should probably turn this into different chapters and then upload them within a few, maybe 5-6 days between one another and everything. And you could turn it into maybe 4 or 5 half-hour bits. And yes, if I want to optimize things, but that's not what I'm looking at. This is a curse and a blessing. I don't make money out of content. I don't stream for a living. I do not make YouTube for a living. I make something because I really want to make it. And because I know sometimes business-wise, you have to make decisions that you otherwise would not make if you were to just choose it on your own. And because I was just choosing it on my own, I could just do whatever I wanted with it. And that I reached out to even Ubisoft back then to see hey, could you guys sponsor it? Would have an official sponsor spot for SI, for Rainbow Six in general. Unfortunately, that did not work out. But at least, I had the money and the budget set aside to make the video happen. And I'm very happy and proud about it. I wish that I could do this with other games. But that would require a lot of work with people from those games. And I have ideas, but they would take many months to work on, and it's not something that I can pull off in the 2 months that this was done in. But I am looking at other games like as a maybe, because I tried to do a follow-up to this year.
Really?
And I failed hard. Like really bad. Because if I'm being very honest, I look back at 2024 and I'm like, can I make a follow-up that is as cool and interesting as this video? And when I looked at it, SI24 was really nice.
Yeah.
Really incredible event. But the rest, Manchester, cool, right? Like, it's nice event. Montreal, cool. But like, what else am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to be picky, right? And that 2.5 hours is very condensed. I even said in the beginning of the video that has to be condensed. Otherwise, it would take forever. It would just be tangent after tangent after tangent. There were ones that, like, topics that were very important to talk about, that warranted every minute that they received. But you have to be very choosy. It's the same when you have like a thesis when you're in university. You have to be picky, because in the beginning you're coming in blue sky, we can do so much, and then your professor, the promoter behind you, will be like, hey, I know you want to do this, but this scope is too big for the time and the space that you have. Narrow it down. Maybe in the future you can do more. So when I looked back and I thought, you know what, 2024, kind of boring in comparison to what had happened before, in comparison to what I really wanted to talk about, something that's really enthralling. Because I don't want to just sit in front of the camera and be like, this is what happened. I don't want to narrate over what happened in the previous year. That's boring. I want to tell you a story about it.
You want to experience it, yeah.
Yeah, I want to take people through it. I felt I didn't experience enough to really give it a video that it deserves. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to wait 1 more year.
Yep.
And then see, maybe 2 years will be enough, because like 2025, the lead up also to the 10th anniversary for SI26, like that would be better. Now, if I did this full time and I did it for a living, that would be a terrible decision to make.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I don't have to do it that way. It's a passion project more than anything else. But it's one that I'm very proud of, and that I hope I can continue to make and do stuff with, because I'm hopeful that this next and upcoming invitational is going to have a lot of cool stuff to talk about over the next year. Like, you know, PSG TALON, will they actually get the main stage or not? What's going to happen? Is Fabian going to get angry again? You know, like, all of these are questions that still keep circling in my head. Because I'm remembering Manchester, I'm remembering the hopes and dreams that were dashed there, but also that were built up. So I'm just hopeful.
It was exciting. There, we've been in a time in Siege recently where you never really know who's gonna win. And besides W7M's like 1 year of really dominating things, it's been a lot of like Manchester. Surely BDS takes it, right? No, they fall short to like this rookie team of Beast Coast. That's just crazy to me. BDS then pop off at every EWC. Okay, that's now like a storyline we can follow. But I feel like almost every single event in recent times, I'm always thinking to myself, who's gonna win? Who's gonna make the finals? Because things don't go according to plan. Teams like G2 and M80 who have insane rosters, they often get first rounded or leave like in quarters, for example, and that just shouldn't be the case in my mind.
Yeah.